We are doing the daily financial news live because we've got some family obligations this morning, but it is important for you and I to talk at 7:30. What is going on in the news today? We'll talk about Paul Tudor Jones. We'll see what Lance Lambert is telling us about housing. We'll talk about a very interesting and important video that went out yesterday from Novo Capital Partners and so much more. Let's get into it, folks. Let's first talk about what the ex-CEO of Walmart is saying about the consumer. He is highlighting that the consumer is starting to buckle for the first time in a decade. I think you can see it in the numbers, right? I think there was a Costco statistic probably 6 weeks ago that highlighted more Costco shoppers were switching from beef to chicken. In economics, that's often called trade down or switching. We are starting to see shoppers not only delay discretionary spending like Home Depot and other companies have talked about, but we're also seeing consumers switch to lower cost items. They are selecting chicken instead of beef as a great example. So there are a lot of things going on with the consumer that is really pointing to at least being conservative and at worst kind of being fearful. More data to come. But it is clear, I think, that the consumer is starting to buckle. More word from the Chinese development. It looks like Country Garden Holding, which is actually the largest home builder, if you will, or real estate builder in China, says that it might not be able to repay its debt, right? We first started talking about Evergrande, but now we're talking about Country Garden Holding. These are the two biggest of big. There's a lot of pain in the Chinese economy. And you got to remember, when you look at the Chinese economy, you have to take off your US bias, myself included. What happens in the Chinese economy, because I have been there, my wife is from Taiwan. We've actually been to China multiple times. I've seen the empty buildings. In China, usually, or many times, individuals buy a second home as their pension, right? They don't have a pension or 401k or things of that nature. So it behooves families to save up for that second home. So why is that important? Well, if you destroy confidence, it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt in a big way. And you've seen the Chinese economy really pull back because, again, remember, if your largest savings is this second home, and is going to be your retirement, then it falls off. You're going to conserve in a lot of ways. And that's what you're seeing in the Chinese economy that I don't think enough people are talking about. The Chinese consumer is pulling back in ways that hasn't been seen in a long time. So again, I don't think this is good news. I do think the Chinese government will have to step in. They've cut rates. Remember, they cut rates pretty significantly about 6 months ago. There's likely more of that coming. So I was lucky enough to interview Brian Underdahl from Novo Capital Partners yesterday. Brian was referenced in the Real Deal article that was talking about social media syndicators. And the reason I wanted to talk to Brian was at the end of that Real Deal article, he highlighted that he has, at the time, evaluated $500 million in multifamily deals. And by his estimation, only 100 could be saved, could be reworked, which means there's a ton of pain coming in that market. As you will hear Brian talk about in that video, he's now evaluated roughly 700 million multifamily and not found more that could be saved. So as we've talked about, as we talk about in that video, there's a lot of pain coming. We're in the first inning of recognizing the pain with that Houston deal, the 3,200 being the biggest example, but there is more of that to come. So we're going to try to get Novo Capital Partners back on because I think having the inside track to what is actually happening with broken syndications, capital calls, DSCR, all of this stuff just not working out. I'm going to try to get Novo Capital Partners and actually get their CEO online. Brian is going to try to make that happen. So fingers crossed that the One Rental at a Time community can get some more insight into what's going on with syndications. Not sure if you saw this, but it looks like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has dropped his bid to be the Democrat nominee. He's now going to run under an independent. It's going to be interesting. I think Ross Perot, at least in my adulthood, got the most votes the first time he ran, I believe. And it'll be interesting. What happened last time, I think, is the independent took votes and had basically helped one of the parties win. It'll be interesting to see who votes more Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Will it be Democrats that are upset with Biden, or will it be Republicans that are upset with their nominee? No idea. But it does look like we're going to have at least one independent candidate running in the 2024 election. I don't know if you've seen it, but the Fed officials have started to highlight that they could be done for 2023. I will have you recall, this is something I called out 6, 8, 10 weeks ago. They did their job. They talked tough. They yanked the market higher. They are now saying the market moving 44 basis points in the span of 3 weeks is enough. The market is doing our work for us. The Fed is done. They're not raising rates in 2023. In my opinion, the debate boils down to when their first cut is. They're done raising, in my opinion. But now we have more and more Fed officials saying financial conditions are a substitute for additional rate increases. So pretty clear to me, folks, the Fed is done. We called it. We called it early. Mike Simonson from Altos Research has a lot of interesting data about what's going on in the housing market. As of today, there are 537,000 single-family homes available. That is down 4% year on year. It is interesting to point out that pending contracts are 58,000. What's interesting about that is they're up 8%. Why is that important? Because remember, last year, the market locked up, and they locked up at 7%. The market today at 8% slowed down, no doubt. But the fact that pendings are up 8% year on year shows you that the market has not quite locked up like last year. We did see that 37.9% of active listings have had price cuts. Just so you know, the historical average is right around 34%. So again, above normal, but not drastically above normal. And then lastly, it looks like Altos Research is calling for a 1 to 2% median home price increase in 2023. And again, something that we called very early on this channel. In fact, it was one of my predictions early in the year. Not to take too many victory laps, I will point out a huge failure of mine, just so you guys have equal weighting. I also called interest rates to be sub 6. They're not going to be sub 6. I clearly own that mistake. And yeah, we got one right and one really, really wrong. But I like to be even here. We did get the first earnings of the week. Remember, we were going to look at Pepsi, Delta, and Domino's, I think. Pepsi came out today, beat top line, beat bottom line, and raised guidance. Remember, Pepsi is interesting because they're not only a beverage company, they're a snack company with their purchase of Frito-Lay years ago. So understanding what is going on with Pepsi really gives you a feel for what is going on in the economy at the consumer level. So beat top line, beat bottom line, and raised guidance. Pretty good thing. Hey, Adam, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate the $2. Thank you, buddy. Morning, Orat family. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you. Don't know if you saw this, but it looks like the IMF raised the U.S. GDP growth for 2023 to 2.1%. That is up 0.3%. They lowered the Eurozone to 0.7, which is down 0.2. They kept the global at 3%. So again, basically the world economy is below trend, but not suffering a recession, at least in 2023. Lance Lambert, again, folks, if you're not following Lance Lambert on Twitter, you really should. News Lambert, he puts out housing all the time. He was talking with an Ohio home builder, which he has talked with in the past. And here is a quote, quote unquote, October has been a ghost town. I don't know. Is that a reference to Halloween? I don't know, but it's kind of clever. Again, I think this is a bigger problem. And nobody is calling it out. Yes, builders are going to have to buy down rates and do all the tricks of the trade to move existing inventory. That's not the problem. They have near record margins. The home builders are going to be fine. But what they are doing right now that nobody is talking about is they are slowing down or even canceling projects. You won't feel that into the spring selling season. In the spring selling season, if we do not get an uptick in existing home listings, what are we going to do when active new inventory is down at record levels? This could be a problem. And then if, big if, rates go from 8 to 6.5, this is the setup. This is the setup in the housing market that freaks me out. So we'll see what happens. Oh, there was a letter. Oh, I did not like this letter. National Association of Realtors, NAR, Mortgage Bankers Association, and the National Association of Home Builders. What did they say today? They said, Jerome Powell, stop raising rates, stop selling the MBS holdings, and oh, by the way, Jerome Powell, if you're serious about inflation, you have to lower rates because housing, aka shelter, is the largest impact on inflation. I saw this letter. I actually put this on my Twitter feed. If you want to go check it out, it is one rental at a time. In this example, the one is the number, not the spelling, because there's not enough letters on Twitter. I actually said weak move. You three were not complaining about rates at 3%. You were printing money. Now you want to complain at 8%. Shame on you. Weak move. Learn to do your job. Fill the need of the housing market. Build smaller homes. Weak move. The Fed put is dead. Remember my conversation with Danielle DiMartino Booth. The whole reason I reached out to her, the whole reason we got her on the channel is because I believe killing the Fed put is important. I hate the fact that Wall Street and these big companies have been using it to profit, and we have been suffering from this. So, National Association of Home Builders, build smaller homes. Just build smaller homes. Stop complaining. We are in a housing recession, a housing depression, down 40%. I think housing is going to go down to 3.75 to 3.8 million in the next month or two. But good news is, that'll be the bottom. That will be where we bounce along probably for quarters, if not years. Read an interesting article from Business Insider. There was a gentleman named Eric. I will let you find his last name. I don't like saying last names. Eric, who quit his $370,000 job at Facebook, aka Meta. Why did he do it? Well, he was having panic attacks. He was in his 20s having panic attacks. Go figure. But yes, he quit his $370,000 job at Facebook/Meta because he started house hacking. So again, he bought a home, lived in the back 250 square foot unit with his girlfriend, rented out the big unit, lived for free, has gone on to do more and more things. And remember, Fannie Mae just released some new lending standards for triplexes and fourplexes. It is now 5%, but please do not overpay. Do not overpay. Make sure the numbers make sense. This lending program does not give you permission to do dumb deals. We still do the work. We still find what makes sense. And then lastly, I got a note from Paul Tudor Jones. Paul Tudor Jones says, it's hard to like stocks given the geopolitical risks and the weak U.S. fiscal position. Basically, I think what Paul Tudor Jones is saying is sometimes it is just too hard and it's better to sit back and see what happens. A couple other things, folks. Let's congratulate Ben. Ben, you got your next deal, buddy. I'm going to put your card in the mail. We do 2 cards here. We recognize doing the work. Ben, your card will be going out in the mail, and this is your next deal. If you do get your first deal and we helped you in any way, we do send out what's called the golden ticket. So all you have to do is get me your address, and I will mail you a card. So congratulations. I know it is hard out there. Remember the boot camp. We're going to have the one and only Jason Pritchard talk about off market. We're going to talk about private lending. And then the following week, we're going to have Derek, that ADU guy, on Day 4, day 5 is going to be awesome in the boot camp. And if you miss it, we will record it so you can see it in the boot camp program. And then lastly, we do have that amazing program in Las Vegas, February 17th and 18th. We've sold 151 tickets. We are trying to get to 265. It's $199. You're going to get 11 or 12 millionaires. You're going to get around 250 plus amazing folks. You want to be there. Please help me sell this out quickly so we can stop talking about it. I'll put a link below. $199. You won't miss it. We're going to do a concert, a party. It will be, my goal will be to exceed your expectations. So, folks, have an amazing day. I'm going to go do some family stuff. But before I do that, Ben, I'll drop your card in the mail. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.